decided to do a video of what I've learned about these different types of social media interactions, what kind of things you have to put in place to get it, and what your mindset has to be around communication, your audience, and all those other things that you're trying to do when you are doing these types of podcasts. So, when I first started with my friend in 2021, Laura, we sort of said, okay, we'll just set up, a meetup around it in DC, and then we'll have a LinkedIn page and then, have some other stuff. So we created our mission, vision, purpose, stuff like that. And we started to build it up and it was good. And we started to follow something called a model called the Worldwide Fuck Up Nights model, where we're sort of sharing purpose through storytelling of failures at work so that we can do better next time. And it worked out okay, but you quickly find that you get a lot of video and then you have Zoom bombing, then you have other things that you need to do to your video because getting to, something that's much more crisp, clean, and eloquent takes a lot more work. Even getting the basics out takes a lot of work. So if you look at I only have 3 things published right now because even these 3 are not what I want them to be for any number of reasons, but you can see, at least I started something up. So, we've got a lot of different things you try to get in there. Um, you try to get the thumbnail, you try to get this, you try to get that. And so it's all these pieces and all these things that are about it. And what I found as I was going through and learning more about channel content and people, and here's other ones that I've done, is that it's not enough just to have the video. It's not enough to, there's a lot of the post-processing and the pre-processing that goes into that. So what is some of my pre-processing? So I have various places I want to publish my stuff. I have themes for every single month, and then those months should roll out into a set of, LinkedIn and Facebook and, you know, TikTok and whatever stuff. So I had to have a way to track all that. So I said, okay, for every single one, I have this ungodly spreadsheet, and we'll talk about what that looks like here. So I put this together. You'll see it under episodes. This is a spreadsheet I sent you. And I'm moving this over to ClickUp for my purpose because this is awful. But you can see that, when I did it, this is my priority, that I've already made a main meme. And the main meme is just sort of like what you saw on that other page. It's like the theme, probably not the meme is not probably the best way to put it, but it's the theme. What is the theme for this month? The theme for this month is the boss. And then have I published that, or did I make it? Yes, I made it, and then I published it on LinkedIn, and I also put it up there. I published it on Facebook. I made a YouTube thumbnail for it. I made a YouTube intro, and then no, I haven't because I haven't made the recording for it yet. And then I made a Space to Fail start on it. So I've actually made Space to Fail starts on a lot of these, the standardized one, and then I'm going to do a specialized one for each one. And then once I videotape it, have I uploaded the video? Have I and the audio separately? Do I also have the chat? Do I have a transcript? So I run it through 2 or 3 different types of transcripts. The Zoom provides a transcript of its own, so does Otter AI, which is another thing I use. And then I go through and say, hey, did YouTube sort of look at it and say, provide me sort of a draft analysis? And did I do a video analysis of it? And then did I run it through my different AI tools that I want to do for long, medium, and short scripts? And long is like 45 minutes, short, medium is 20 minutes, and then short is like 10 minutes or less, or 8 minutes or less, usually. And so, that has to, do I make a storyboard? And I think I'm going to take storyboard out, but I might, do I have mini stories extracted from it? Because you can also ask for mini stories. And so so once I'm done with all that, and usually it's just the first draft and some of the scripts, I send it to all the speakers that have been on, and I ask them to review it and then they say yes or no. Then I come back to final edits, and then I post like the long one. This would be YouTube long. This would be the like a 45-minute one, and then YouTube medium 30 minutes, and then the short one. And then I do a TikTok. I have it run and create TikToks of 90 seconds, 30 seconds, and then supporting LinkedIn, um, uh, posts on it for as well as Instagram and Space to Fail posts. So it's a lot of different things. This is sort of like my overlying thing that I want to do for each one. Some of them are coming better than others. But I started looking at this, and so I started to do actually an automation approach, and I had to actually sit there and lay it out. Like, you take the video, you put it, and I didn't even start with the making the meme thing. I just took the video that we take when we do the session, and then all the different things you have to run through, and the outcomes and stuff like that to get that. And then you could put this into a workflow automation system, but that's separate. Let's go back to this. So my episodes. So I also have to think about like B-roll, what audio music I want in there, what video segments I want in there. This also includes like what the episode intro had in it, the speakers, information, and then any references I want to include in the bottom for people to read. And I'll give you examples of all these different ways where I found a lot of this. But you can see it is a lot, but you can move it to a better way. So the other way I'm trying to do that is by ClickUp. And ClickUp is a sort of a program management on a steroids system. And it pulls a lot of this stuff in and says, hey, I'll help you with that. And it actually has templates. And so you'll say, okay, well, let's see so I pulled into a template and I sort of augmented it a little bit, but you can see I can pull the stuff in and it'll start putting all the information in, like what the meeting link was and all the attachments are. So we can start taking all these stuff and put it into a dashboard and make it a little bit easier for me to do that. And then I can also see it by speakers, because some of my speakers are really important. I may want to use them later on, right? And then the SEO content, right? This is not correct, obviously. It's got some other stuff in there. But you can see these are the social media scheduling things that it makes for you. And you can use these automatically, just these, and then you can make custom fields. You can do a calendar view or a board view to make it easier to, and I don't know why I didn't mean to sign in. Sorry, because it's helpful. Although I have a thing for it. Why is it not? Anyway. All right. So you can customize these different activities, and it makes it easier for you to get and move around some things. So that's what I'm starting to do. Understand the social media. If we look at their schedule and what it looks like, you can sort of see the templates and how they've done it. For me, it's a little bit too much. But that's what I did was I took, I took it on there and I started to do that with my own stuff. So you can take this to the next generation and make it a lot easier, and then share that with your group instead of having to put all that money into it yourself. So with the copious time that you have. So that's how I'm trying to get from here to, not stuff I'm sort of bored with, but to a more purposeful and well done things, like some of the ones on Justice Matters, or that's what you see on some of these larger ones that just look better and they get shared further. So like I said, I'm learning a lot about each of these areas. So for your purposes, I also collect a lot of B-roll, and so what I sent you also was this is the episodes layout. And then here are the little video ads that I like, right? And this why I would recommend them, right? And then we would add this into our videos. And here's audio rolls that we might want to add that I found. And then reference pieces that also sort of align with the episodes stuff. What are the common takeaways from this book, books, expert groups, different groups that we can also align with. And then I do a lot of stuff from quotes, and then I had the AI system sort of roll out, align the quotes with themes and topics and tags. So my SEO was all very quickly sort of aligned, and then it could pull from those pieces and auto generate some of the content for me. You have to double check it because some of it is garbage, but it made it a little bit easier than me trying to figure out what's the theme of the statement, vulnerability is not a weakness, and that myth is profoundly dangerous. You know, well, it's the theme is, if we look at here, innovation and it's actually fostering psychological safety. Um, uh, so, and then this is what the system, recommended, and it's largely garbage. But some of them are okay, and you can sort of prune as you need. And then I have a glossary of different things, so everybody's on the same thing, on the same idea. Business resources. This is for if you're trying to get funding or support in the local small businesses and stuff around here. Automation. This is the workflow automation. This is only for me right now around um, the video to the synopsis and extraction and picking and integrate stuff and scripts. So an episode publication. So that's sort of how I even give it output IDs. So I would sort of know each area. But these are things that you have to think about, and you can't think about because otherwise this is carried out by a whole bunch of people. And then I have a swag one here for you too. So the other thing I had to think about when I was doing this was like, well, what people are going to ask to talk. I said, so in your case, it's going to be people you want to have involved. And so here are people that if I were running, a group like I wanted, the group we've discussed, these are the people that I would look to, their backgrounds in and networks and skills and things like that. So this is in some ways your CRM. Groups and resources. This is another thing that's both podcasts. It sort of links up with the video side too. These are ones that are you either want to be aligned with this podcast or picking up pieces from this podcast or video casts largely. There's probably TikToks. They all usually have TikTok or something else associated with them. Usually these are the video pieces. So the video pieces are heavier, and then they sort of spin out from that. And so I provided some here for you, and they may make no sense, and I'll try to explain that. So some of this is around, the inner sanctum of the Republicans that came over and became never Trumpers like Scaramucci. And what he says, he's actually pretty entertaining and he's pretty good, but he does fall into that space that they talk about in the comeback retreat of being sort of an elitist. So, although I think he does a better job than a lot of other people. Wizard of Words actually has nothing to do with politics. It's teaching people how to communicate better. And that may be for our team, how to stop things, how to do. And so I like his training tactics. He's very snarky, which I love. So that's one of those videos, check out a few of the videos I have on the right-hand side, you can see. And that's maybe not for the purposes of what we're rolling out, but it's the purposes of training our people better. CopWatch, I have this because it's part of the things that I use for understanding the everyday person. And I use it for teaching leadership in every day and the value of sort of keeping an open mind, stuff like that. But we also want to look at these types of videos because one, they get a lot of catch, and two, it does show things at the very ground truth. And so you see the everyday issues that people are dealing with. And understanding that is one of the key areas that Dems are getting gigged on, right? Soft white underbelly, same thing. These are the really insightful things that you see everywhere from Appalachia to Skid Row and everything in between. So integrating some of the thinking here is more what I'm doing here. and less about, like, some of the content is really good. I do like the episode to watch, for Nick, the bounty hunter, and learning trust in times of extreme stress and stuff like that. So interesting takeaways. Tyler Cohen, just like Scaramucci, has a huge following. He is very well produced and everything else, and he talks well, and I like him. I don't know if he will, like, we have to be into what he's saying, but I don't know if his stuff is making it past the firewall into the groups we want to influence. The Bulwark, same. I love the guys. They're basically ostensibly a bunch of people that became never Trumpers and then have just moved further and further away, um, as the time has gone by. I like them. They get really good people and really good points, but I don't know if their stuff is breaking the crust of the into the volcano that is the MAGA side. Red, white, wine, and blue. Take a look at this one. I just found this one, and it's sort of for our grassroots purposes. These guys are really, really interesting. Each one of these is hyperlinked to the group that is, or to the episode. And what I liked about this particular group was something that says, not political, no problem. In fact, it's perfect. We're a community of diverse suburban women fighting extremism one friend at a time. And I like that perspective. And but she's not a pinhead and like what's it called? We say suburban woman and we sort of think like housewives of whatever county. They're not. She's actually really interesting, and I like this one. I think she would be a good sort of grassroots person to be pinged into. And here's one of the videos that I thought would. Ed Lattimore. This guy's really interesting. Former heavyweight boxer. He's not really political. He has just got a really good delivery and a really calm way of operating and a very thoughtful thing. And I like him. He's not as um, polarizing as Michael, whatever his name was. He used to be the head of the RNC. Um, and he's more, because he came from the streets, he was raised in the projects. He's really, really compelling. And I like him. He may not get to everybody, but I find his lessons interesting and him very thought-provoking. This is a PBS NewsHour. Obviously, this goes back to almost like this is exactly what the Dems don't want to do. But what they're saying, especially in this particular episode on inoculating Americans against radical extremism, is really important. And so, how do we take what's in here and pull it out into a way that other people will take that in and understand that their behavior or the behavior around them could be adding to this, right? This is sort of what I was thinking of when I was going through this group. Close some of these before they just confuse the hell out of me. Parkrose permaculture. How's this for a change? This lady is a freaking gardener. She is really, really good. She went to her congresswoman. She had a lot of things, and check her out. Because it comes across as like Parkrose permaculture. What the fuck does like a landscape architecture person have to do? It's really she does a good job, and so check her out. She's in Oregon. Again, another person that like isn't going to be the exact you know person we're looking at in terms of location, but this is sort of like that farmer to farmer idea, right? I could take her and have her talk to somebody like my sister used to live in Minnesota, used to grow her own gardens for different stuff like this, and I could see them having a conversation on this. So just like red wine and blue, very, very sort of catches you. Another one is Tennessee Brando. This guy's all about being, you know, uh, he can be incendiary, because he's coming across stuff, but he's got this sort of the redneck vibe, right? And but he's not. I don't know if you can hear it. Yeah. So So he talked a lot about political things. I enjoy him. He's interesting. I think, he's down the South. But you can sort of see his page is big and broad and like, in your face. And I think that plays well for a lot of people. They feel better about stuff. I like him. He's good. There's a couple other guys I like a little bit better. Peter Santinello, another one that you're like, Brigida, why did you pick this guy? This is why. Because he just takes the world as it is, like the soft white underbelly, and talks and gets stories and the ground truth and how people are thinking and why they're thinking the way they are. And it takes you out of your fishbowl, right? And sort of gets a more rugged view of things. Now, these are, you know, this is not large scale data, but it is a good insight into the things and the grabs that we can make both in our understanding better and ways to what we see and hear and put through some of our processing to understand what's going on in these areas with a very unblinking eye. Um, so we talked a lot about learning. Wired does this really well. So what I liked about this was tech support. So, like a historian answers questions on this, a psychologist answers things on this, a paleontologist answers questions. These are all really good. So when we talk about like how we can bring understanding better, this is an entertaining way, and I really, really enjoy it. One of them I saw that I thought would be really cool to highlight is a scam support one that they have. This is so that's pretty cool, right? I mean, like I think this model of sort of teaching engagement, it's not heavy, it's fun, it's fascinating, um, and it's like, I didn't realize that was the case. So each of these made me think, and I would love to have that moment for us too, right? So when you talked about teaching, this was one of them that I thought was a good one. Leto's Law, another guy that So another guy that's very, very interesting. He's sort of he's in Michigan. He does a lot of lemon law stuff, but he takes stuff that's esoteric law stuff and brings it down to people's level. Like, oh, this is why this matters. This is how it could affect you. This is what happened in like Florida, and people will drop in their stuff too. But it helps you understand policy. It helps you understand large ranging things that other people maybe wouldn't get or understand otherwise. And so another area of like learning, right? And we don't necessarily have to get one of these, one of those. I just think of like we can even just pin into his stuff and start figuring out how to use some of the volume of stuff they do to help validate and strengthen our own role in being a larger sort of Americana and not seen as elitist. And this, I'm trying to take all this stuff back to, these uh, third way commentary. It may be OBE if the rest of the Democrats don't pick it up, though. So let's go back. All right. So Legia Miller, this chick is also like um, the woman who's the gardener, right, person, and that's not fair to say or call her a gardener because she's good. And what I liked about her is she's spares no fools, and so she's like, yeah, this one's really good. All right. So I'm going to start here. All right. So she does a really good job in a sort of snarky way of saying this is what you guys are missing, and it is actually very well done. In the she parallels what they say in the third way, and so just like the other woman that does uh, the the Park Rose permaculture, she's smart. She actually also advocates for action. At the end of her stuff, she's like, I can provide you with agendas and talking points and da 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 on how you can move this. This thing is smart. You guys should be talking to her. So that's my take on Lee Jo Miller. So like I said, another one that I just like More Perfect Union. This has a really interesting document. It's More Perfect Union is sort of about being less of an elitist Democrat and more of a like about us. But it does still come across as a little bit elitist, but it's got good documentary stuff underneath it. Um, it's just hard to make it into um, the spaces that you're going to be going after to get the message to the next thing. But you can see, crypto conference and Miami and for inequality and things like that. These are all the key things that we concentrate on from the Democratic side. But then people don't believe it. They don't believe how John Deere affects you. They don't believe how John Dollar General is approaching you. And these are people that are, and so sort of taking things to the next general area and breaking down and having people look at these, even looking at some of these is going to be hard. But it's very, very interesting to see at least the content that they produced. And I would like to see more of the underlying data that they used. Although we know that data does not change minds, emotion does. Psychology 101. So, shots fired. This is one I use in my stuff just because it's another one of those video ones, but it's really, really good. It's got good insight and storytelling because of what they do. Um, and they talk about what people are going through every single day, how things are they're dealing with. These are sort of the yucky stuff that you hear, but you'll also hear the emotional side, like, hey, this is what I had to protect my mind from. This is how I have to do this. This is how you build good values from other people. And this is one of the key things. This guy and another guy, we need to think like these guys are because they fucking figured it out. And let me see if I can find it. It's a sheriff that I like a lot. And one of my friends goes, "What's wrong with you, Brigida?" Um, it's he is a sheriff in like Pinellas, Arizona or something like that. And he got behind a bunch of um YouTube activities back when like nobody was, like especially not in law enforcement. And and so he talks about sort of how they did it, how it was sort of a iterative process, and the importance of it, and what he did. And what I liked about it was, let's see if I can find it here. Let's see here, sort it. Date published. Let's see the newest one. Was that he has a very interesting way of addressing the very real activities, both on and the realities that he faces as the sheriff, which is a political group, versus the being, head of law enforcement, which is on the street, right, and working with people. So that was one of the biggest things that I really liked about him. The other thing that I really liked about him was the way that he grabs and talks about the everyday things. He said, I have to find those small areas that I can build up my bank account of good things and good karma with my groups. Like reevaluate. I asked them, what do you want to redo? And they're like, we would like to have beards during the winter. Okay, well, and then some people are like, oh no, that's out of uniform. You can't have that. And he was like, okay, so we found like a middle ground where you could have them during this time, but maybe not during, you had to come down to a goatee or something smaller during the winter. He goes, but I built up good feelings and good value. And so when I have to make a really hard decision that looks really ugly, um, and that's going to burn up some of that, I have that whole full bankroll of stuff that people can say, you know what, but he had our back on this. So it builds up that strength. And I'm trying to find it. I'll find it and put it in here later. But it's basically what I'm doing is the ones that I recommend that I like, I'm putting them all in a playlist called Third Rail, and so you can sort of watch some of them. I'm also finding like these pieces that we should be highlighting, what like these judges, like this one right here, Judge Middleton in like Minnesota or Michigan or something like that, and these women, a lot of the African American women judges, phenomenal mentors, exceedingly wise, don't put up with people's shit. Great examples of who we should be highlighting and reaching through, and you sort of see what people say, and they're like in places like deep red states, and they're no nonsense, and you sort of see how they've stuff, and some of the stuff you hear is this all the souls of the stuff that you'll hear from a lot of Republicans. Like this one judge person was telling her that, well, I'm on Social Security. She was like, for what? He goes, or SSI. And she was like, for what? You're like 24 years old. He goes, oh, for ADHD. She was like, since when is ADHD something you can't work with? You have a brain. You can work just fine with that. And she's just, you can sort of see her shaking her head about the welfare stuff. And she says, she goes, see another one. So these are the on the ground things that people don't realize that other judges are seeing and stuff like that, and we can push forward to awareness of where a lot of us have a lot more in common and values that we're aligned with. So I'll put more of these judges in there, the ones that their Zoom channels I think are very interesting. um how that aligns with what we've talked about before, and where it really, comes in strong, and where I think we can use some of the content to sort of build a bridge to getting onto people's playlists, because that's one of the hardest things we have to do, is building onto those playlists, getting in there, getting that foot in the door technique, right? Um, so yeah, so these all these little things um, that we don't think about because we're already sort of there looking across. There, he's look uh, for us. It's a huge step over to get there. So this is another one, from the Wired or Insider, how drug trafficking actually works, and they actually have 3 guys on there that are, just got out of jail. That's sort of a Interesting validation. So it's sort of it's fascinating. It gets on people's playlists. It says, "Hey, you know what? That's pretty crazy. How much do we lose that way?" Um, can we use things like crime shows that actually a huge number of women over the age of 18 watch, um, to get people, into this? Can we use some of these other things that people find incredibly interesting to get our foot in the door as a way to show people that we also have the same interests as you? And these are so that's what I really concentrate on was what are we doing with some of these, and how can we use different episodes of these to garner our own set of interests. This is Ear Hustles from prisons, very well done, I think, too. Um, but you'll see a lot of these, sort of go across. Bruce Rivers is a really interesting one. I, you'll have to watch him. I'm not going to even give him away because he is the most like it almost makes like dichotomy is sort of funny, but you have to listen to him and you can see how he crossed the chasm from being sort of a white suburban lawyer who did a lot of like defense law to like, hey, this is why all this, a gangster writes his theme song, right? It's really, really fun. And so check him out. Freakonomics, the concepts in Freakonomics are very good, but they get rolled up into that elitist thing again. So some of these are all my stuff, but you can sort of see I have other types of groups and communities that I want to get involved in, but we should think about. But these are the types of things that when I go through and say, okay, we have to change how we're thinking, how we're doing it, you know, these are the types of things I think about was both, using people like this person, John Fuse, who does Verapix influence operations, to understand where we're going to go into and what kind of words we can use. But then also, hey, this is the type of content. Can we reuse some of this other content, add it in this way with us, and test how our messages go, right? Can we test existing, you know, strong types of authentic messages and align ourselves with that? Because I think the more we get to the authentic voice, which is a lot of what they said in the cultural disconnect, um, and being inclusive rather than exclusive, the closer we're going to get to getting into people's attention span. And I've heard this economy now called the attention economy. So these are sort of the things that I think about when I'm looking across and saying, okay, what matters? How do we have to think differently about people? Where do we have to better understand them? How do we have to stop telling them, well, according to this, 58.6% of your, da 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 da, and GDP is this, and they're like, yeah, I don't do alphabet soup like you do, you know, and it's very, very interesting. There's another video on here that I have that's worth taking a look at because I wish, and it's well done. It's done by people and holy shit, I bet like it's not getting the people it should get. Um, right here, it's called Why Louisiana Stays Poor. That's the same as the average reservation. So, yeah, it was well done. They go through a lot of the different aspects of within Louisiana of even people coming and talking about, "Hey, I came here from, like, California to learn more about it." And she's sitting on this boat with somebody else, and this woman asks her, she goes, "Did you ever think you'd sit with the California liberal?" "Absolutely not," right? But you can see how they are coming together to form something better. She may not be in this one, but they talk about a lot about the data stuff and things like that, where I think it's a good video, but it's not gonna be the crunchy stuff that we need to have to push into people's psyches. So, but this is what the type of stuff that maybe we could take part pieces of this video, pieces of the approach, and put it into our approach to get people a lot understanding that we're about supporting you and moving you up, not, not just telling you, we'll just give you another handout. So, let's see here. This one right here is also you look at it and go like, Brigitte, I don't know why you chose this one, but what the fuck is wrong with you? Right. So this is one of the interviews from Soft White Underbelly, and this guy, James Sexton, I think also has his own podcast. And is a divorce attorney, which is not usually the most entertaining thing. But this goes to show you how well you can make a case for information and how you can convey information in a way that is really interesting, and in a topic that everybody fucking hates. Um, you just gotta listen to them. So you get the idea of the authenticity and the realism delivered in a way where people can go, oh, 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 like Plato's law, that mix of learning, but you don't even realize what you're learning. You're learning these deeper issues around behavior and psychology and what's really pushing it and some of the other things. And it's taking hold in your brain in a different way than other things are. So that's why I recommend things like this. Um, this one. If you haven't watched Fanon, this guy's awesome. So this guy was one of the fucking awesome. Excellent. Excellent. So I like Fanon because he's got enough of an edge of being a real man. He's got all the neck tattoos. He's put in his time, right? And he's all about action. I like him. So another one of those people that, you sort of get that edge and that interest in like this is, and a lot of people are pissed off about the January 6th stuff. So um, let's see here. So a lot of these things are sort of learning about contentious engagement, stuff like that too, and some of them are just fun stuff that I've put in here. A lot of them are this is actually my stuff, and then the audio that goes with it. So um, so like I said, this is if it's more of a one that we should hook into or a larger group that we should be part of. I put it under the resources and groups for if it's just maybe ones or twosy videos, I put it over here. Although red, wine, and blue, I'd probably put in resources or groups. But I'll let you take a look at it and then see what I put on here was for my purposes. I would put like what part of it I want to put start and stop and what episode I want to put in it and sort of call outs. And then topics in there. So this is how I would use this to sort of build out my thing. Let me see here. Episodes, videos, audio. Audio is just other sort of this is B-roll stuff for me. Inform and act is when people want to know, well, I want to read more about this. Where is it? Here's some of the books I use. I think we went over the rest of this. Anyway, so these are the ways that I've been doing this, and that's why I sent this to you because so you could see and it's sort of mixed some of my stuff on leadership and failure with some of your stuff, but and our stuff that we need to do in terms of politics and saving the country from a coup. Um, but changing hearts and minds, doing the general stuff that you're going to do when you're looking for behavior change, and especially in the day of this sort of mind virus activity where you're always fighting the evolution of that virus, and they do. So, so yeah. So I don't know if I've confused you more or left you with like, why the hell did you do that? But like I said, it's a lot of different pieces I go through. I always, when I'm developing my themes or my whatever, I try to make them sexy, make them poignant, make them harsh, that because that's me and that's what I want to talk about, right? And so I have write ups for each one that's like a few minutes long, but it's always about something you can relate to. We can all relate to, and so and then so these are the things that you sort of pull people in. The TikToks, you have the small memes, and this would go into your front end stuff. And then from there, you sort of spin out what you're going to discuss, who's going to be a key part of that, where it's going to go, what we're trying to get back to people, what we want them to learn. And it may be something as much as little as, what the fuck? Why isn't there accountability? We just want to be we just want people to be accountable for crushing people's heads in, although you don't say it that way. You know, that's where we want to start grabbing those emotions and saying, and that's why you need to be doing this. And that's why we are going to do this. And that falls back into those women that I thought were really interesting, who are really pushing for more action. Legia, whatever her name was, and the other woman, and Fanon, because there are people out there that they say, I want to get something done, and there's nobody to push them. And then there's other ones that say that she had a really good topic, and I'll try to find her talk, where she said people think that, like, well, I went out once and nothing happened. So what happened? What do I do when I went out once? And her response was, you go out again and again and again and again, and it's more than just a one, a 1 minute, you know, sign off on supporting your activities. So I think those are some of the things that we also want to hone in on, is that it's a long marathon, not a sprint. So I've been going on here almost an hour, but yeah, I thought this would be easier to do than another way. And so I'll let you just take a look at this and tell me what you think.